Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is I, Chris, aka Starrapter, joined by my buddies, as always, Milton and Ben, for Outer Rim Transmission. This is number 59. And here we thought we would have kind of a slow week, and Lucasfilm just, put out a bombshell out there with this Vanity Fair article covering everything we want to know about the future of Star Wars, from the TV shows to the movies. We got an update on all of that. Plus, we have some news from Dark Horse. The first comics have been announced, and some cool new Star Wars novel tidbits that tie into Rey's lineage. So we'll get into all of that on this week's episode. As always, starting it off with our Star Wars conversation of what hit us this week with Star Wars. Started off with Ben this time around.
Yeah, my week was pretty good overall. Nothing too nothing too exciting. So like this week for me, I didn't have anything like out of my way Star Wars wise. I didn't have any crazy cool finds at the store or anything like that. It was more just like little things. I threw on, since we're obviously going into Kenobi next week. I watched just a few random Clone Wars episodes. I watched the what's the arc called? The whatever, the arc where they go into the Force realm. But anyways, I watched that. Mortis. Yeah, thank you. I watched the Mortis arc. That was really good. And then I watched just because it's like the time period. I watched the Darth Maul versus like Obi-Wan episodes of Rebels, like that little one-parter there. So just did that this week. Talk Star Wars, of course, with friends and family as always. And like we always say, Star Wars is like such a big part of all of our lives. It's like almost like a daily thing, even if we don't try. And that's pretty much how it was this week for me.
Yeah, Ben, I had recently finished Brotherhood, the new novel from Mike Chen from Del Rey, and I said that last week, and yeah, man, it immediately got me in the mood to watch some Clone Wars, some good old Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes. So I gotta do a little bit more of that, but well, I think I'm gonna be a little bit too busy because I have a couple days left. I gotta get packed, I gotta get things all organized and whatnot, and well, working on what I was working on, I'll show you guys. I didn't mean to actually put this in a chat, but I guess I kind of spilled the beans already. But yeah, I worked a little bit on this little guy here. So yeah, I have a little BD-1 replica.
That's awesome.
That I'm going to be carrying around with me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so what it is a 3D printed model. So I constructed it, I put it together, and then I primed it and I painted it. So all my years of painting Star Wars miniatures, it finally is paying off, and now it's like, hey, this is the first time I've done anything like real life size with painting. So
yep.
I think it did all right. Now, hopefully, it doesn't fall apart when I'm walking around with it, but it's pretty fragile, so I'm gonna have to be very careful with this thing. But hopefully, it gets there safe and sound in my suitcase and doesn't get torn apart in 5 pieces on the way to California. So we'll see what happens. I might have to make sure I pack some super glue just in case something happens, as they always tend to do when you do costumes and stuff like that. So yeah, getting ready over here. I was just playing Star Wars or Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga before we went live. Progress update, I'm now past the 50% mark of completing the game, and it only took me over a month to do that. That's how big this game is. I am currently on my way to Coruscant. I've kind of mapped out my route in free play mode, where I'm tackling each planet in their own sector before kind of moving on counterclockwise. I started at Mustafar, and I've since worked my way about halfway through the galaxy at this point. So I am going into Coruscant. They did put out an update though today, or this week. They actually put out an update, and they snuck in like 34 more Kyber bricks you can unlock that are basically spaced out across 4 new capital ships that you could actually fight against and take over. You can take over a Venator class Star Destroyer. You can take over the Invisible Hand Grievous' ship. You can take over the Full Matrix or whatever it's called, which is I think the big ship that took out not Agent Klaus, but the thing in the Last Jedi. Mm-hmm. That planet. I don't know why it's escaping me right now. So yeah, I was like, okay, cool. There's new Lego Star Wars content. Not that I'm anywhere near getting done with the current content anyway. So that's been my week in Star Wars. So it's been been pretty fun. And we're getting down to the wire for me to finally go to California. What about you, Milton?
I think my week has just been seeing all the, and we'll talk about it today, just seeing all the Kenobi pub, like all the clips and articles and pictures that's been released. Like I've been soaking it up. It's been making me more excited for the show. And we'll dive more into that when we get to that component.
Oh heck yeah! It's you can't escape it at this point. And I think that's one of the lines actually from the trailer. Like you can't escape
Yeah.
him or them or something like that. So apparently
Yeah.
I have Kenobi on my brain. But yeah, I mean, like I linked you guys. Like I seen our first clip a couple hours ago. Owen talking with Ben. And the fact that he calls him Ben, I have to get used to that again. Not calling him Obi-Wan. It's just like he called him Ben. And it's like, okay, like Obi-Wan wants him to go out and like explore it. It's Owen that is like, okay, you shouldn't be going anywhere. So I found that interesting from that like 20-second clip, but it sounds like it's great to have these high profile actors that have been doing a lot of things since that they've been in episode 1 and episode 2 because they have so much more experience. And I've seen some quotes thrown around that Kenobi is going to be more like Logan, is going to be more like Joker. So this is going to be a lot more introspective than I think even some of us might even realize going in. But I think I'm ready for it, man, because like, and we'll get into it more. But I feel like these series are better suited to be like, very specific character development focused stories, whereas the movies are going to be good for like that big galaxy spanning wide, strife and everything else going on there. So yeah, we'll get into plenty more Kenobi as we get into this week's show. As always, some housekeeping. You guys can follow us at Outer Rim Transmission on any of your podcast services around the globe. We are on all of them, pretty much from Spotify to Apple Music and so on. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to us and listen. We would like as many listeners as possible. If any of your friends are vaguely into Star Wars, give us a shout out. We'd very much appreciate it. If you are listening and want to see us live, we go on YouTube to record every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. So go ahead and check us out there. And then you can also be a part of our lively chat rooms as we have so much fun discussing the latest in Star Wars with you guys live. And we can also pick up a Star Wars or Outer Rim Transmission t-shirt over there at teespring.com. So with that out of the way, we also have some new releases that came out in the form of a couple comic books this week. We have Dr. Aphra issue number 20. I have my review for that as well as the other one I'll mention. But Dr. Aphra issue number 20 is kind of going a crazy town now. Dr. Aphra apparently is, dealing with these ancient artifacts from this ascendant culture, which is like a culture that existed back when the Sith were very much alive and around and kicking. And apparently these guys of the Ascendants are trying to replicate the Force using technology. Anyway, just keeping the story short, Aphra finds one of these artifacts she's been going after for a while. It basically kills her and then resuscitates her with vines and all this crazy nonsense. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is going over the rails. We're going to see how the hell they try to tell this story with a character that's basically a zombie at this point. So, yeah, I'm, as you can see, perplexed. But, hey, there's going to be more stories told, and we'll see how that goes. We also have Han Solo and Chewbacca issue number 2. Now, before I get onto that one, there obviously is something going on with the pipeline of these comics because some of them are like over 2 months waits in between. And it's really getting annoying because I'm like, this is a great story. Like we last left off with Han Solo apparently having a father still around. And then this story opens up with Han, obviously like any of us would say like, nah, you're just a con artist. You're not my father. Turns out that the guy's legitimately his father. So we actually meet Han Solo's father. Han Solo's father, we see a flashback between him and Han is saying like, it's cold out. It's windy out. I want to go home. And Owen, which is his father's name, says, I know. So they sprinkled that in there. Like, that's where Han gets that from. Han also manages to get the lucky dice that he keeps in the Falcon from his father as, like, a keepsake. Like, even though his father was kind of, a jerk to him, his father did impart this, like, wanting for his son to do something better than his father could do, which is just working in a shipyard. And well, hey, I mean, he became a general, a very respectable person of the Rebel Alliance. So I think his father would be proud if he still is around. And that's basically what happened in the comics this week. We have first time chatter in the chat, Elise, saying this is awesome. Well, very much appreciate it. We do this every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern, as I just said. But going from there, I think we're ready to just kind of jump into this big article. So this came out earlier in the week, and as I said off the top, it's like Star Wars Celebration. We were planning on just doing like maybe a little celebration preview or something on this week's episode, with that coming out in a couple days or coming up in a couple days. And no, because we could spend the entire show talking about basically every one of these touch points that we're going to mention is probably a show in its own right that we could talk about each one of these things. And we're going to try our best to get this all in by 11 o'clock. And we'll do our best because there's a lot, and I mean a lot, to break down. So I'm going to throw over to Milton because I know you said you were excited to talk about this. What was your first reaction? Just the overall scope of what we finally got. I know we've been all wanting these answers about, hey, what's coming next for Star Wars? Why are they so secretive? Well, this article actually kind of peeled the layers back, and it seems like the cracks are kind of forming in this solid foundation of Lucasfilm just being very secretive. So what do you have to say about that?
Not surprising in the sense of the secretive component of it. I mean, we've talked about this over the last year about how sometimes they're too secretive. What I took from the article is obviously the Kenobi stuff that was discussed in it. I'll soak that up all day, but we'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, I think in this article, did they talk about the whole non-recasting of older characters at one point? Was that discussed?
Yeah.
Okay. That was something I took away from that because it's like they're putting like yes, they're admitting they made mistakes in the past, but they're now trying to shift the blame because Solo didn't do well. So let's not recast younger characters because of a movie that was already up and down prior to its release, because all the director drama, the release, the fallout of The Last Jedi. So for them to sit there and just say, hey, the reason why we're not going to recast younger or legacy characters is because of we know better. It's because it was a failure. That's not necessarily true. Look what we got in Mandalorian. Yeah. Look what we got in Boba with Luke coming back and using the technology. We love that part. Hell, Ahsoka was recast, and everyone loves her. They're doing a show of her. So to me, I felt that was kind of a cop-out.
Yeah.
It's kind of an excuse. And I'm thinking, come on, Kathleen, like you can't be like Sith would say, or like Obi-Wan would say, you can't deal in absolutes.
There you go.
Like, come on.
I completely agree with you on that, Milton. I thought, obviously that we're going to talk about so many of the really good scoping parts of the article, but that was one of the parts of the article that bothered me because to me, not even purely from the recasting point, not even any of the points that you'd made there. All your points are completely accurate, but my point is, I don't think it was a good look personally, for Kathleen Kennedy as a leader of Lucasfilm, because my example I talked about throughout the week just on Twitter with people and some of my friends, etc., was that's like your NFL head coach going out and throwing the quarterback to the media right in front of the bus, like, hey, he's the one that had a bad game, it's not us. And like she basically threw Alden right to the wolves, like, basically his recasting was the reason the movie failed. Right. And it's just like, I don't know. I just don't think it's
it was the coaching. It was the coaching. Like the coaching was the problem. So in this case, she should have thrown, Lord and Miller, maybe Ron Howard. Like those are the guys that were quote unquote the face of the film. Yes, the quarterback is the face of the franchise. However, quarterback isn't supposed to be saying anything. He's supposed to keep his mouth shut, be that corporate leader that when he goes out and do his job. And he executed with the playbook that he had. Alden executed with the playbook that he had. And hell, we all like Alden as Han Solo. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that movie. However, Kathleen, you cannot put that on that actor and say, well, the reason why it failed was because we recasted him and, we could have used Hans or Harrison Ford, but we didn't. Like, come on. You're telling me right now, if they said we're going to do a 2-season miniseries of Luke Skywalker with Sebastian Stan as Luke, no one would complain. No one.
No
We'd be
one
like,
would.
oh, that's
No
what
one
we
would at
want.
all. I do think though.
I haven't kind of
With all-
complained, but that's just me.
with all that being said, though, I do think there is a positive coming out of that.
Right.
All that negativity is, I think this means that we have a very, very, very highly likelihood of seeing a lot more of CGI Luke, potentially other characters, and I think there's a chance for that now. That she put that out there, but also to me, that puts the Lando show completely in jeopardy.
Oh,
so
for
sure. There is that out there now as well.
Here's the thing: we really don't need Lando show. We don't need that show. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch it if it's available to me, just like Solo was available to me. We didn't need a Solo movie.
And
we absolutely didn't.
Okay, so this is a great topic to start off of, because I didn't know where to start, but I think this is the one article that you see the most spin off of from the community, and every article news site is running headlines about all this. So, we'll start with the negative first. There's a lot of positive in this article, which I can't wait to get into. But yeah, it is difficult from Kathleen Kennedy's perspective because, as you said, Milton, only Sith deal in absolutes. Like, it's easy to blame like one reason, but there's also many other variables and reasons why it didn't do well. But I mean, here's the thing: I still think that having Harrison Ford recasted is just wasn't a good look in the first place. It wouldn't matter whoever played, Harrison Ford. It didn't matter if it wasn't Alden Ehrenreich. It would have still probably done the same, just because I know personally a lot of people that were just like already negative about the movie before they even seen a trailer, because they're like, no one's ever going to be like Harrison Ford, because it's like you could do other characters and different things like people compare. Let's start with Obi-Wan. People compare the recasting with Obi-Wan. I think it's a completely different. That's the different. It's a different animal, because you have one guy that's like in his like elderly years versus him as a spry like teenager essentially. Like, those are complete opposite ends. One guy's got white hair, the other guy literally has a crew cut full head of hair. Like, you could easily like look past that just from an in-universe perspective. But I think for anybody to get over Harrison Ford, he was the one actor that really kind of went past Star Wars, and he was in Indiana Jones, obviously, and all these other big things. So no matter what, like, he's a huge A-list actor. So it'd be so hard for anybody to look past that iconic character and really wrap their head around him. But as Milton said, people already seen that there was, issues with the directing and all that. So maybe people were already thinking in the back of their heads, it's going to be a train wreck. Why am I going to go see this thing?
Right. There was that. There was, I do think like it is a very viable reason. Like you sandwich Avengers Endgame and then Solo and then Deadpool 2 back to back to back like that.
Right.
That accumulated with, that was only about 6-7 months after The Last Jedi fallout, and there was plenty of fans at that time period like saying boycott Star Wars. I'm not going to go see a Star Wars movie. Blah blah blah. And I think here's the thing. I think that movie came out in May, from my understanding. Correct? Yep. It was May. December was Last Jedi of 2017, and then May the following.
And that's where I was. Cause remember, they moved the date, I believe, to May.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, well, you've already had us programmed with 3 movies prior to that to be December releases. Like, you were going to own December, and then you move it to May with all the turmoil of that film, and it's like, wait a minute, you have to now rewrite it, reshoot it. Yep. All this other stuff. The negative press is coming out. It's like, you know what? Why would I want to go watch this? Why would I give it a chance if I know all this is BS? So, yeah.
Well, you see here, there's another thing with that as well. When Solo eventually went to Netflix, that was one of their most viewed movies for the first few months of its run on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really has to do with a lot of those circumstances that I just mentioned. Like, people are finally giving it a chance, like, oh, we're enjoying this movie more. So I think that's a big part of it. And I don't know. It's just a lot of weird circumstances. I've always said if you push that movie back to December, it makes $200 million more easy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It just, it's a tricky spot. And like to me, when it comes to recasting, I've always said this for the longest time. I don't mind recasting whatsoever. I don't care what character it is, because you've recasted arguably just as iconic roles several times. Like James Bond, he's as iconic as Han Solo is, and he's been recasted, I think, 4 times now, going on 5 or 6.
Here's the thing, though. With James Bond, nothing's like Star Wars, so you can't really compare much else, because James Bond is like a non-linear story, so it doesn't matter technically who it is. It's not like each movie continues like a sequel of another movie.
That's true, but I'm saying just pure stature-wise, arguably, like you have James Bond, Han Solo, like those characters are right in the same class of, I would say, all-time characters. Heck, you've had Superman recasted, Batman recasted. It's such a tricky spot with recasting. Like I've always been also, I mean, I'm definitely the minority of things, but I've even said, like when Rise of Skywalker came out, I thought they should have brought in some type of actress to make Leia's performance better versus just
I
like,
don't know about that.
Versus just writing the scenes around her, because they're so. I watched Rise of Skywalker last week, and with a few of my cousins, and like it's so noticeable. They wrote the scenes around the deleted scenes that Carrie Fisher had, and it's just so noticeable. Versus if you would have a fully functioning actress, if you had a fully functioning actress, it would have played out. However, I don't know. I don't think any actor, to me, in my opinion, owns like a role. Like, for example, even not to turn this into a Marvel podcast, but like Black Panther, like I don't think the Black Panther character should die with Chadwick Boseman, because like Black Panther's affected so many people in such a positive way, and Marvel's like implying like they may not recast him. So it's just like I just don't like where things are going with recasting. Like I don't think actors should own the role. Like I mean, look at Iron Man with Tony Stark. Obviously, we all love Robert Downey Jr., but like, if they want to do an Iron Man story and Robert Downey doesn't want to be in it, like, recast him. Like, no one's bigger than the role, in my opinion.
Well, it's easy with Marvel. They got an easy way out. It's called the multiverse. So they have the variants of them. So that's not even a conversation.
Same with Batman.
Yeah, same thing with Batman. They have a Flashpoint that'll happen, and that's how they get Michael Keaton in there, the whole multiverse.
That's true.
But that's the thing. Of Star Wars, they gotta hold strong to their bonds. I feel like if you're gonna recast a character, it's got to be them way older or way younger, because if not, then they're gonna have to do some kind of CGI thing like they're doing with Luke. They've proven that they could do that. I'd rather do that than have another actor, because that'll buy that. It really comes out of personal preference. There's no like objective answer to this question, because it's how everybody perceives them. But or just do animation, just do a whole animated series. That's fine with me.
Yeah. That'd be cool with me. And that's when I'm shocked we didn't get an animation series with the original trilogy characters yet. I know they've been featured in, Leia has been in Rebels, but you would think you would take advantage of their voices and their performances through animation, because we have the technology to make it look incredible.
Yeah. So going off this point, I was kind of going into that territory a little bit earlier. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy said what she says, and I understand from a businesswoman, a business perspective, if something failed as much as Solo did, apparently, you don't want to ever try to do that again. If you look at the budgeting, right, I think it's, I don't know if this is confirmed or anything, but I was listening to another podcast, and, they had to spend so much more money. I think Solo's budget was like $300 million, which is like $100 more million than most movies, period, that are on the upper end of things like Marvel and Star Wars. So they were already fighting up an uphill battle, because they had to invest like $100 more million into this project. So to break out even, they had to make even more than they usually would for a typical movie. So it was already difficult for the reshoots in general for all that stuff. But I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think Star Wars works best because all the other movies that came out with Star Wars, including Rogue One, had a big effect on the galaxy. They had a big effect that the fate of the universe existed with those movies. Those characters were leading the current events in the galaxy. Whereas Solo, you can take that in a vacuum, and it's like, yeah, it's not really doing a whole. It's not doing a whole lot for the whole galaxy. Yeah, the underworld it's doing a lot, but in the larger picture of things, not as much. So I think it's great if Star Wars movies can kind of give us that big pop, and they have all these multiple characters. It's an ensemble piece. They have Jedi, they have ships and all that. Like, people love to see that on a big screen, whereas you could do things like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you could do things like Solo in a series because you're going to have more character development and all that. So I think going forward, based off what we're seeing in this article, which we'll get more into here, is that seems like the route that they're going right now with Star Wars. And I think it's a good idea because, I mean, we have it's like how you delineate which is going to happen, what goes to this big screen, what doesn't, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll see. Again, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think we'll see. I do think a lot of we won't even really have to like worry about this entire topic, because I think Star Wars is mainly heading in a more of a TV direction. Anyways, that's just my personal feeling on it.
Yeah, so speaking of that, let's get into the first big bullet point I found in here that was really good, some good juicy tidbits. This revolves around Andor, and we got pretty much as close to an official synopsis of what season 1 will entail as we can. So this comes from Gilroy, Tony Gilroy, who's the showrunner here. I literally had this pulled up. Okay, so I'm gonna read like this entire paragraph to just settle in for a quick one here. Let's see. This is pertaining to Andor, the character. This guy gave his life for the galaxy, right? I mean, he conspicuously, cerebrally, without vanity or recognition, sacrificed himself. Who does that, he asks. That's what this first season is about. It's about him being really revolution averse and cynical and lost in kind of a mess. The story begins with the destruction of Andor's birth world, then follows him into adulthood when he realizes he can't run forever. His adopted home will become the base of our whole first season, and we watch that place become radicalized, Gilroy says. Then we see another planet that's completely taken apart in a colonial kind of way. The Empire is expanding rapidly. They're wiping out anyone who's in their way. By journey's end, Andor's path will be to block theirs. So there you go. I mean, that was a lot of information. This show is going to span a lot. I know we've gotten that confirmation. It was 12 episodes. This already feels like it's going to be so much different than The Mandalorian as far as like a format wise, right? They talk about this almost looks like it's going to be more of like your traditional network TV, in a sense of like a network TV with a really big budget, where you're going to have more time with the character, more time at one location. And I'm really digging the fact that it seems like we're going to get into the root of like him as a separatist, living in that world, because we know from the novelization, I've been in this fight since I was 10 or whatever it was. And in the novelization of Rogue One, it's literally said that his parents are separatists, and he was like throwing rocks at the Republic soldiers and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure. So I'll start with Ben. What do you think about this big blurb we got here from Gilroy that gives us our best information yet at Andor Season 1, which apparently is coming out in the summer, by the way. They did announce that in this article. It's coming out this summer. Late summer, they said.
Yeah, late summer, so, probably end of August or something like that. End of August, early September, right? I feel like, that's a good example. You mentioned comparing it to network television, because when do network television shows usually come back? It's usually late summer, early September, and I feel like this is gonna fall right in line with that. And as for the details though of the article, it's great. We finally get an actual synopsis for the show. Lucasfilm isn't being like secretive with details. Like that's awesome. Like, continue, just give us information. It doesn't hurt to tell us even just a little bit of stuff. So I really like the fact that they told us about the show, and I feel like it just sets the tone really, and gives us an idea of what to potentially look for. And it's going to, I feel like it's going to really like dive into his character, of course, but with it being 12 episodes, it really makes me think. Just reading the way that description reads, it makes me think we're going to also be getting some type of a potential dual storyline. So we'll have Cassian's story plus the villains, whoever the villain is of the lead villain is of the series, their side of the story. Think of it like our Arrowverse shows, like our other even our other like say Marvel shows, for example, in the Marvel universe. Like you see you see the villains in the show and the heroes, or and so on and so on. Like I feel like we're going to get more of that, because I don't think we'll get 12 straight Cassian dominated episodes. I think it'll be more alternating. Like maybe Cassian's like the lead for an episode, most of the first episode, and then like he's in it for like half the next one, and so on and so on, and it'll be kind of like a pattern like that,
Yeah.
where we get more of a dual type storyline between the villain and him.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about this dual storyline, because it's literally confirmed in this article. I pulled it up here. This again comes from the article saying, in Andor, this is pertaining to Mon Mothma, by the way. In Andor, her story will run parallel to the title character, whom we know will eventually become one of the key agents. It's a huge orchestral Dickinson ensemble cast. So this is, yeah, exactly. This is something we haven't seen in live action Star Wars storytelling, right? With each one of these new series, I'm always looking for what's going to make this different, for not just characters like feeling wise. Are these series going to each have their own kind of uniqueness to them that's going to make them be like, oh, this is a show you watch for this and this? We know that the theme of this is going to be like a spy thriller, but it does seem almost more like a Game of Thrones-esque series where you're going to have, Mon Mothma that's in the Senate at this point. We're going to probably see scenes on Coruscant. I remember we got that report earlier with the Chagrian vice admiral guy or vice chair guy, Masameda with the Royal Guards, and saw that. So this is where that storyline's probably going to play in there. And then you go for an episode like you said, or maybe even the same episode, and then maybe we'll have some guy in a white cape and white uniform. Maybe we'll have his perspective from director Krennic or something. So this excites me, because this definitely shows that Mandalorian was very small in its scope, where it's just like every scene you're looking at Mandalorian or the child. But this is gonna span the galaxy, it looks like. What about you, Milton? First instincts on this one here.
I'm looking forward to this show. I'm not as excited for this as I am with Kenobi. However, because I liked Rogue One, I really enjoyed that movie, and I liked the Andor character. I'm looking forward to seeing how they flesh him out. How do we get to see his character develop? And I'm looking forward to see how he connects from going from being a separatist to joining the rebellion and being a really integral part of the leadership, because that's going to be cool because he's not going to start out that way. Something's going to happen, or we may see it in a flashback where it convinces him, hey, I'm on the wrong side here. I'm looking forward to seeing Mon Mothma. Is that the same actress? Was it Genevieve
O'Reilly?
O'Reilly.
Yep. Dude, I saw that clip of her the other day looking fire, by the way.
I know.
So is she looking right? So I just love how we're getting these characters that we are very comfortable with from other films, and how we're just getting more of that story. So looking forward to this. Cannot wait to see how the Empire is just wrecking shop, because that's something that we still haven't seen in a sense of this era of Star Wars.
And that's what it looks like. I mean, from that paragraph I read earlier, they completely destroy his planet as a kid. Like, I want to see what that looks like. Are they going to glass the planet like they do in the Halo series, where they have a bunch of Covenant warships that literally just like unload plasma on the 90% of the surface of the planet and just like turn it to like molten lava? Like, that would be freaking crazy, because we know obviously the Death Star is not activated at this point. We see that happen in Rogue One, not completely, but almost. But I would like to see something like that, like an orbital bombardment, like you would see in Knights of the Republic when Malik just unloads on the city of Terrace and just wipes that out. Like, I think that could be really just exciting to see. Like, okay,
Right.
the Separatists, like, because we know what happens in Revenge of the Sith. Like, the Separatists just get destroyed. Like, they all go to Mustafar, Anakin kills the leadership. But what about like the rest of the Separatist ships that are just out there in deep space, like around the planets? Like, I guess the Empire just says, okay, you're all dead to us, and just goes in and wipes them out. Like, that, maybe his planet is kind of like that.
And really, like with the droid army, which was they were shut down at the end of Revenge of the Sith. So there's really no protection for these people in the sense of they don't have a military unless they have. I know this is Legends. If they're Ram Koda and they got their own personal militia, different story. But it'd be dope to have Ram Koda pop up in this show. Just saying. But
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that'd be fire. But yeah, it'd be nice to see again how the Empire is transitioning from okay, we were the Republic, we showed the seeds of the Empire. Now we're really going to show like who we really are and just wreck everything.
Yeah, what about you, Ben? What about seeing a young Cassian? What do you hope to see from like his perspective as a young
Yeah,
boy? Like what do you want to see from that?
yeah. The thing is with him, I feel like there's a solid chance we'll be getting flashbacks more predominantly. I think versus say an extended like multiple episodes or something with him being younger. So like I think it'll be something along those lines. Like it'll be your type of thing. You get flashbacks in shows and movies like where he'll experience like something and he'll get a flashback. Like I think we'll get stuff like that. That'll lead to like different things like you mentioned, maybe his planet getting really pummeled, like things like that. Maybe we'll get flashbacks to like the early era of the Clone Wars potentially, or like when he was a kid. Like that'd be pretty cool because what if we do get a flashback of like his parents like say talking smack about the Republic, and we like see like from the Separatist perspective, like the clones as like enemies basically. Like that'd be an interesting take. So I think we'll get things like that, and then of course like with the dual storyline going on, Mon Mothma, it's going to be great seeing like what happens with her, seeing her in action because I guarantee you they're probably not going to have her just be like sitting in a desk chair the whole time, doing that sort of thing. Like I think we'll have some type of drama there, and it does make me really think. Say if Palpatine isn't in the Kenobi series, that means he's for sure going to be in Andor based on like Ian McDermott's comments. So, I could easily see Palpatine potentially, doing like kind of a recreation of the whole episode 3 talking to the Senate scene where he's talking to the whole galaxy and maybe Mon Mothma's there like, checking it out.
Yeah. No, that's a good breakdown of what could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the transition to see him. You start to see the specks of hope. We know right now that there's most likely going to be 3 seasons. I mean, even in this article, they say the first season, so that's confirmation right there. We're getting more than one. We already heard K2SO is probably not going to make it into the series until season 2 anyway. So it's good that we're getting so much direction on just single character of Andor. But to see how he starts there, he kills his own guy, and then he really fights hard for the rebellion and becomes redeemed sort of at the end. We're gonna see those seeds here, and I think it's gonna be good, but also like to round out the universe, as Milton keeps saying, you want to see the Empire fierce, you want to see the Empire at the full brunt of their power in live action. I mean, we've seen that in a couple animated things, but I mean, this is gonna be the place to do it.
Here's something to throw out there. Think about this. What if they cast that guy he kills in Rogue One and he's like one of the side characters throughout this show
Oh man,
to like build it up,
I could see them doing that, and I could see, because I think we're gonna have that Saul Guerrero. I think he's gonna have to be in this show. I mean, he's a huge part of the rebellion, and that guy's one of his men, right? Basically, so if he's around, then that guy could show up. Tivik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you have it for Andor. It's interesting now, like trying to piece together when this could come out. I think there's no way of escaping that. It's gonna come out while She-Hulk's on, because we got the confirmation She-Hulk will be out the first couple weeks of August, and that's going to be like a longer series of like 9 or 10 episodes from what I hear. Cassian's going to be about 12, so there's definitely going to be, from this part, doesn't matter if it's Obi-Wan and Ms. Marvel or if it's going to be Andor and She-Hulk. We're got to get used to watching a Marvel show and a Star Wars show every single week, which, hey, I'm not complaining. That's going to be pretty neat, It's like, what do I watch first every week?
Only way you'll be complaining is if they're trash. That's the only way you'll complain, Chris.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, the Marvel stuff, I'm so on, like Miss Marvel. I got a couple gripes about the character as far as where her powers look compared to the comics, and She-Hulk I don't really know a lot about, so I really don't know what to expect from that one. But
Yeah,
hey,
I've only gotten through one episode of Moon Knight, and it's been out for a while now.
Yeah,
uh,
that was a grind for me to finish that. It was tough, but I got it done.
ah. All right, so some more Star Wars to look forward to. There's just a couple fun notes I made in here about what it's taking for the creators for Kathleen Kennedy to like work. She doesn't want the creators to like work for a single year. Like when you work for Star Wars, like you got to be in it. Like you to accept like a movie or a show, like this has to be like your specific thing you want to dedicate. And I find that funny because this to say she's also hired Patty Jenkins who's juggling like all these projects, and then she's saying in this article like she wants the creators to devote multiple years to making sure this thing goes and completes. But it's like, okay, yeah, you say that now, but there's been a lot of issues, and I think
See,
that's why she probably said that. Like these creators are maybe in one foot and out with another foot trying to do another project, and then that's when they have creative differences. I don't know, I'm just assuming, which is not great to do, but
right, and see, this is my problem I have with her sometimes. Like, I know she's a great producer. I'm sure she's well deserving of that president's title. However, this is where I think she overdoes it. And what I mean is, she needs to focus on her strengths as being a president. That is coordination, communication, getting people together. Let the creative people be the creative people. I think early on, we talked about how Star Wars didn't really have a plan, and I felt like they were just being very chaotic. And I hear some of that right here with her, but then I do hear that she's trying to course correct and say, listen, we want to get people to sign with us for multiple years, multiple projects. Let's try to keep it within the family for a while, and then they can go expand out. However, in today's society, especially with these creators, they're not willing to be caught up in one thing. Kathleen needs to understand, like, multiple studios are trying to get these people in their rooms. Look at your boy, Guardians of the Galaxy guy,
James
James
Gunn.
Gunn. You know, he was exclusively Marvel at one point. We all thought. Then all of a sudden, he jumped ship to Warner Brothers, makes their Suicide Squad movie. Now he's got the Peacemaker show with the season 2 coming out. Then he's going to go
yeah.
back and do Guardians, and he's hitting 2 major franchises.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Me
it's
and
like,
him.
yeah. So it's not
Cool.
like it's not like he's going to say no to stop being creative. Like, he's challenging himself, and she needs to understand that these creators they want to challenge themselves. So they're not going to just want to be in one place all the time.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
pulled up the exact quote here, which pertains to, so hopefully it's a little bit more transparent when I was trying to explain a couple minutes ago. So this is all to do, in this part of the article, leading to the hiatus, which is, annualizing each movie coming out every single year. There's like 4 movies in 3 years, something like that. She's saying we all recognize every single one of us that this is a new chapter for the company, and we need to all work together to create the architecture for where we are going. And she's also put input on this. Let's see. The most important lesson they learned from this: Star Wars required a greater degree of professional devotion from filmmakers. Anyone who comes into Star Wars universe needs to know that it's a 3, 4, 5 year commitment. She says, that's what it takes. You can't stop in for a year and shoot something and then walk away. It requires that kind of nurturing. So there you go. I mean, that's probably what happened in the past. A lot of these people are just, they got their hands in too many pots, like cooking too many things at one time. And it's just like, gotta focus.
Yeah,
But
well,
see, and this is why I don't feel bad for her in this nature. And I know what she's trying to do, and I get it. But Kathleen, you're the one that set this precedent early. You told JJ come back for one film, because I remember, didn't they have JJ lined up, or Ryan, and then Colin all lined up? And I
Yep.
remember at the
Mm-hmm.
one celebration they talked about Josh Trank doing the
Yep.
original
the
Boba Fett
Boba
movie.
Fett movie.
And there was somebody else, Lord
James
Miller
Ma-
or Hans.
James Mangold was doing Obi-Wan. Apparently,
Obi-Wan,
that
yeah.
got reported everywhere by Hollywood Reporter
Right.
everywhere.
Was
So-
he doing Boba Fett too at one point?
I
Yeah,
thought
he was
so at
doing
one point
Boba
too.
Fett as well.
But
Yep.
then Josh Trank became the guy, and then Lord Miller was Boba, or excuse me, Han Solo.
Yep.
But it's like, you sign all these directors, you announce these projects, and there's no commitment after that particular project. Like, that's on her. Like, she set that precedent. Then you wind up, none of those guys worked out except for two, Ryan Johnson and J.J. Abrams. Everyone else was gone. So it's
Yeah.
On top, Milton,
Gareth
the
Edwards,
Obi-Wan,
that was an interesting thing too.
I
Gareth
forgot about
Edwards,
that one. Yeah.
yeah, Gareth Edwards had to, I mean, he said it on a podcast. I listened to the podcast.
Really?
He said basically, like, because like the podcaster asked him, that was right around the time shortly after Rogue One came out, and like his direct thing he said was talking about like he said in a joking way, but when people joke around about stuff, there's more
truth
to
in
it. And he said he joked around about having to like play ball with like the baseball team there at Lucasfilm, which basically means, hey, you have to do this. So like, when you play ball, like that's definitely, not the, like, say, nicest way to negotiate, because remember they had to have Tony Gilroy to come in to basically finish up the movie. So, you have that type of a situation. You have, as you stated, Milton, like, you have all of these directors. There's so much money out there when it comes to all of these different movies and series and everything. Look, the Game of Thrones guys, they left for Netflix. They left to Netflix. I think their deal was $100 or $200 million. Like, heck, we'll get into Ryan Johnson's stuff later, but Ryan, he left Star Wars, and I mean, come on, why wouldn't you? Netflix gave him a $400 million contract.
Whoa.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. If you didn't realize that, Chris, yeah, his contract with Netflix is $400 million.
What?
Yeah, that's like they own his like exclusive rights or whatever. So
he's doing the whole Knives Out trilogy.
The whole Knives Out franchise.
That's
it's going to be
insane.
through Netflix. Yeah,
That's
I have
half
the
$1
article.
billion. I can't even fathom a director getting that kind of money.
Yeah.
I know they have a really difficult, straining job, but
Yep.
that's $500 million.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
So it's like, why would you go to Star Wars and maybe make whatever, say, Ryan's would make for 10, 20 million a movie when you could get 400 from Netflix? Like, it makes no sense. Like, to me, I think that's another practice that Star Wars should do. They should throw an offer like that. Some of these big directors, like, hey, we'll give you 200 million to stay with us for the next 5 years, 8 years, whatever.
Well, yeah. Ben, I agree with that. So go back to the old model of, I believe back in 50s and 60s, where like a lot of actors were signed with a studio.
Yep.
Like I think John Wayne was with Golden Metro and Mayer, I think is how you say it, or Metro Golden Mayer, like MGM. Like he was a big MGM guy. Look at a lot of the
Nolan's with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, Nolan was a Warner Brothers guy. I think, actually, speaking of Warner Brothers, didn't JJ just go over to Warner Brothers for like a big deal?
Yep, it's rumored he's doing a Superman movie.
Yeah, but like he's signed there for a couple $100 million or whatever, do a couple movies for Warner Brothers. So it's like yes, Warner Brothers and DC and all these studios are saying, hey, we're going to get these directors, but we're going to get them for multiple movies, not just for one.
Yeah, that's what I think Star Wars needs to incorporate.
So moving along in the article, this part's pretty funny. This goes into the Mandalorian stuff. They didn't really reveal anything at all as far as information, other than we're getting season 3. It could still be this year, if not early next year. So there's still that hope that they said 2022, but they also said 2023 at the same time. So it could be either way. Hopefully they don't run into any snags, and if it goes, nice and smooth, we'll get that by the end of this year as well. So we could have, 2 Mandalorian tales with Book of Boba Fett and season 3 in the same year. That's pretty exciting. But they did go on to explain like the history of the Mandalorian and how Filoni got together with Favreau. I think it's very interesting. I'm not going to go over every little tiny line detail in this, but basically, they had 2 separate Mandalorian shows in the works. So, like, Favreau had his one idea, and then Kathleen Kennedy is basically like, well, Dave Filoni's been trying to, like, do something with Mandalorians, because that's a big thing that him and George were developing with the Clone Wars, and with, the peaceful Mandalorians of Mandalore that turned away on the violence of the past. And so they ended up just hitting it off. Like Kathleen Kennedy was like, I'll I'll have them two in a room, but it's probably not going to end well. But it turned out that they were like best buds, and they just got together and really coordinated and collaborated really well. But I just think that's pretty cool how like the Mandalorian is like an amalgamation of like these two separate ideas. And you could see that like all the sprinkling of the stuff from the Filoni, you could clearly see that stuff, and you can see like the stuff that Favreau is kind of designing, because he did design Grogu, and they kind of mashed together, and I think they're working very well together. So what do you guys think about that one?
That's been the best part of Star Wars thus far, is the Mando stuff. I mean, and really those two creators, and I'm gonna prop them up heavy. Dave Filoni, we all love the Clone Wars because how one, he came from George's teachings and elevated Star Wars. I think with Clone Wars, Clone Wars elevated the prequels and the original trilogy, in my opinion. And Dave told so good stories and expanded the lore of this universe, and it's like that show is so rewatchable. It never gets boring to me. There's some episodes that are wonky, but they're not like trash. It's like, okay, whatever, I can skip it. I don't need it, but it's still worth watching. And as for Favreau, I mean, he's such a great storyteller in himself. Look at the Iron Mans. Look at the Lion King. Look at the Jungle Book. Mm-hmm. He's a good actor. He's got experience in front and behind the camera, which you can tell like he's probably the seasoned vet of the two. And it's like they're a good, use a sports analogy, Kobe and Shaq, Scotty and Michael, Clyde and the Dream. Like they bounce off each other well. I can throw Favreau into the low post and hit a jumper, while Filoni can hit a three from the elbow. Like they do a really good job at collaborating off each other, feeding off each other's strengths, but also making each other's weaknesses better.
Oh yeah. What about you, Ben? What do you think about this cool collaboration that's been in the works for a while?
Oh yeah, I completely agree with the points you just made, Milton. It makes me want to see Favreau and Filoni on a basketball court. But yeah, I think it's a really good pairing. As you mentioned, Milton, like all the great things about both of them. Filoni's from the Lucas camp of things. You got Favreau with his unique in front of the camera and behind the camera type storytelling, which he's been really good at for the most part, I would say. And it's nice, he has such a wide variety of experience, with his obviously he has live action, but he also has like the animated things like the Lion King, Jungle Book, etc. Mm-hmm. Those will obviously play out really well for these Mandoverse shows because there's a lot of CGI now, potentially Luke being on the table more. Like, they're gaining more and more experience with these types of like technologies, and it's going to help John and Dave like innovate even more. And that's one of the most exciting parts to me is like I really feel like with JJ, with Ryan, like nothing against them, they're fine directors. Like Knives Out's really good. JJ has some good movies in his filmography, etc. But to me, it feels like they were more of like more corporate, I would say, than like Favreau and Filoni feel like they're part of like say the fans, if that makes sense. Like they have the pulse of the fans, it seems like, versus like, hey, I'm gonna just do whatever I want because they hired me to do it, versus like weighing out what the fans potentially may or may not like.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just seeing all these different creators throughout the years. I mean, everybody knows who Filoni is. I think Favreau's definitely become a household name, more so than I would say J.J. Abrams at this point.
Oh yeah.
So. Yep. So moving on from this one, we have another fun tidbit that I just wanted to put in here because it's kind of cool. All right, so they're talking about the stagecraft, aka the volume, which is what helps create the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and a lot of other things. Apparently, I found it cool. They already have 3 of these things in LA. I think last time we checked, there was only a single one. They also have one in, I think, Europe and maybe Australia. So they're really upping their production with these, because now there's other movies and stuff that are starting to use them. I think Thor uses them in an upcoming movie.
Yeah,
So,
the entire Love and Thunder movie was shot on the Valium. I'm pretty sure.
whoa, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's most of it, but continue.
Yeah, so apparently next door James Cameron is like in the works of, making Avatar 2 and 3 or whatever, and he's like using this really crazy like technology that's going to be in this upcoming movie of like him shooting underwater scenes and all that. I'm not really sure what's really groundbreaking about that, but apparently it is. So one day, I guess somebody invites him over to check out the volume, and the guy was sold. And as we know, I think he's had a couple really harsh criticisms of Star Wars, to say the least, I think, for the most part. But apparently they got him on this. Like, they actually got this guy to be like, basically like, yeah, this is good technology, which is like to say a lot, because this guy pioneers. This guy's sort of like George Lucas. James Cameron pioneered a lot of technology for filmmaking in his time. So, hey, they got the gold stamp for, from James Cameron, so they're doing a good thing. So I wanted to throw that in there. I thought that was a cool little tidbit.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, James Cameron is like right there with Lucas and ILM. James Cameron is the guy, like, pushing visual effects forward more and more. I mean, Avatar revolutionized what we know, like, in terms of what's possible with CG and stuff, as well as, I mean, heck, look back at Terminator and Terminator 2 especially. James Cameron's touch on the film industry is well noticed, and it's great, like, knowing, he was like, hey, this is good stuff, like, because, gosh, think about the opposite side of it. If they would have came out of that, and like, if a quote would have got out of James Cameron criticizing the volume, then people would have been like cross-examining every episode of Mando and Obi-Wan and everything, being like, oh man, James Cameron doesn't like this, but it's great that he does. Like, it's going to be interesting too, now that the Avatar movies are owned through Disney and stuff, just to see how they end up playing out, like with the volume and just all of that. Like, but yeah, I just think it's really good hearing such a highly touted director / creator putting a stamp of approval on it. It's great news.
Yeah, what about you, Milton? Do you like a lot of James Cameron's movies?
I mean, I like Terminator 1 and 2. Avatar I liked, but he's playing around too much. I mean, he should have made Avatar 6 years ago. But I know the whole technology thing. It is what it is. But honestly, I have no idea about this. What's it called? The volume?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't even see this, so I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh, okay. So the volume is like what they shoot the Mandalorian on. It's like that big wraparound screen.
The big digital.
Oh, yeah, no. I did
stage.
see that.
Yep.
Did they use that in season 1?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing. I didn't realize that what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. I like how they do it, because it's very much like they bring the. It's like they can transition like the sets off of that. For what I remember. No, that's cool. I mean, I don't know. That's dope. So now we're good. I like it.
And I want to back up real quick before I forget to even talk about how epic this is. So if you guys are looking at the article, like the actual cover photo is just so epic, because they got and they have a behind the scenes clip of like the production of these photos that they made, but they're all in the volume. All these guys, they have the Darth Vader, they have Reva, they have Obi-Wan, they have the Mon Mothma, they have Cassian, they have Din, they have Ahsoka. Like, all these actors came together one day, and they all just like had a photo shoot. But like, it's just, you look at these images, and first of all, they're amazing photos. They are taken by Annie Leibovitz, who is very renowned with taking awesome Star Wars photos. I think since like episode 1, I think she's been involved with them. But it's just so cool if you just sit back and be like, hey, all these actors were literally on the volume one day, and you could see the behind the scenes stuff of like Obi-Wan like chuckling with Din Djarin and stuff like that. They're all in costume. It's like, oh, that would be a fun thing to imagine. Well, here it is happening right before our eyes with Pedro Pascal and Ewan McGregor just having some laughs.
Looks like they're going to be forming the Avengers.
Seriously.
I know that's what came to mind too, Milton. Like, when I saw that picture, I was like, man, this feels like the Avengers. And then when you see the villains one, it feels like it's like the whatever, Sinister Six, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I thought I thought it was really great, and I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the last official physical Vanity Fair magazine that's getting released, like with Andy Leibovitz doing the photography. I'm pretty sure this
Really?
is their.
Okay.
Yep, that because they made a big stink about it because they were like, oh well, she's done so many things like when Star Wars came back, and now this is like her final like issue or whatever. It's like for anybody like who collects things like that, like that's definitely like a collector's type thing to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact that Entertainment Weekly, that final issue with whatever, was that Boba Fett on there? No, it
Yep.
was Ewan McGregor. It was Ewan McGregor.
Oh wait, okay, actually never mind. Hold on, I got Entertainment Weekly and Vanity mixed up. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
Entertainment Weekly.
I was like, wow. I was going to say, I know that the internet is a huge thing with publications these days, but man, these magazine companies are dropping like flies if that's the case.
Yeah, no, that was Entertainment Weekly. My bad, people.
Don't worry, you could still go to your newsstand and pick up these things physically. So there you go. That still exists if you know where to find them. I guess you got to go to like Barnes and Noble or something. Newsstands don't really exist too much anymore, I guess, unless you're in like a
No.
major city. Um, all right, so getting into our next story here, we're gonna go back to some interesting canon tidbits and places of stories and where they take place because we heard from Leslie Headley. She is the showrunner for The Acolyte, and we now know it has taken place 100 years before The Phantom Menace. We know it took place at the end of the High Republic, and that's a very nebulous time period because we now know that the High Republic dates back all the way up to 350 years before The Phantom Menace. So now we have a more solidified idea. Judging by the way she was, different details she was putting into this report, she has been doing her homework. She has been looking at, the different High Republic things, or at least the artwork, because she mentions like a lot of the white and the gold on the robes, which is the Jedi Council kind of material and clothing they wear. But I'm just happy that we're getting more information about this. That 100 years, you can have a lot of speculation. I put out a little YouTube short, which was the first one I ever made. I've have been neglecting that feature for the last year it's been out, but I put it out to everybody out there like, hey, could this mean there's a plausible chance to get some Darth Plagueis content in The Acolyte? I mean, only 100 years before, Palpatine looks like he's already like 50 something by the time Phantom Menace rolls around, so I think there's a really good possibility that we could see Darth Plagueis. So I'll throw it over to Milton for the first one on this. What do you think about this report? 100 years before the Phantom Menace. What can we glean from this? Do you think that Plagueis can be in it?
Absolutely. I see no reason why. I mean, if you want to introduce him, this would be the way to do it. He was alive. So, like there's no ands or buts around it. He was alive during this time period. I mean, I forget what is his race. What's
He's
his
technically
alien?
immune in Legends, but I mean, we don't
Okay.
actually know if he actually is one
So
right now. in
so
canon,
let's
at least.
assume Munes can live for 300 years, or whatever it is. Let's just assume aliens can live longer than human beings. He's alive. I don't know. No one can tell me any different. And let's see him plant the seeds of his quote unquote his ultimate plan of, yeah, Palpatine may not be born yet, or maybe Palpatine is older than what we think he is, and maybe he's around. Maybe the Sith, or excuse me, yeah, maybe the dark side of the Force, how unnatural as it is, prolonged his life as an adult or made him younger looking when we first saw him in Phantom Menace. You never know. They can manipulate the dark side of the Force to say, hey, it can keep you from aging. Think about the lightning that came out of his body. It screwed his skin up, made him look so much older. And he lived for another, 40 years after that. So, yeah, I can see Plagueis being alive. Perfect way to introduce him. I want to see Plagueis start putting the seeds in place of what we're going to then see in the Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm bringing up the article again here, and this is a headline describing The Acolyte as a mystery thriller set in a prosperous and seemingly peaceful era when the galaxy is still sleek and glistening. We actually use the term the Renaissance, or the Age of Enlightenment, she says. Jedi were not always stoic, monk-like creatures living selflessly and bravely. The Jedi uniforms are gold and white, like I was saying, and it's always like they never would get dirty. They would never be out and about, Headland says. The idea is that they could have these types of uniforms because that's how little they're getting into skirmishes. Interesting.
Oh yeah.
What do you think about this, Ben? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think that we're gonna get we'll probably get Darth Plagueis to some way, shape, or form. I think so. If not, it would be a misstep unless they take the story in a totally different direction. But as you said, Milton, he's around during this time period, whether no matter what age, unless munes are only like can live 50 years or something. But for the most part, like he would be around during this era. And like the more and more we hear about the Acolyte, I am really thinking the way they're going to go with it. Look at the model of Book of Boba Fett, the way they took his character. I really think we'll be getting some type of similar things with even this show, where the Acolyte will have this new lead, new Sith Force user or whatever, dark side user, and they'll probably end up seeing what Darth Plagueis is about, and slowly, maybe their faith is chipped away from Darth Plagueis. So by the end of the series, I feel like the main character will probably turn good, and maybe Darth Plagueis takes him out or something. But I think I just feel like it's inevitable for it to go in that direction. But if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say it's like a 70% chance Darth Plagueis is in this series. Like he has to be. Like it's for the time period. Like it works perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you have this character that got name dropped. Same thing with Darth Bane. I think if any character ever gets a name drop, like we're gonna have to see them eventually, even if it takes 30 years. We're gonna see those characters eventually.
Yeah.
And I would just we get in the High Republic, and at this point in the High Republic, the stories are 200 years before the events, at least in Phase 1. Phase 2, they go back even further to 350 years. But the 200 years, there's no word of Sith at all. Like Sith, other than, they've been dead for a long time. We don't get any perspectives on any Sith in the background. This is what we're going to get in this show. Obviously, the Acolytes pertaining to almost like Padawans in the Sith sense of things. At least that's what I got from in killing lots of them in the Old Republic and Knights Old Republic. Lots of Sith acolytes running around. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential, and we're gonna see that. I like how she was talking about how the Jedi are already seeming like they're dogmatic at this point, like we see in the Phantom Menace, where they're just not going out and about. They're just sitting back in their place in the Jedi Temple. Real quick, if I want to, I'm gonna just give a very, very slight spoiler alert for the High Republic Phase 1 here. So if you don't want to hear this for like 10 seconds, go ahead. Basically, at the end of Phase 1, all the Jedi retreat into Coruscant to the Jedi Temple. They get retreated back there because there's a huge disaster that happens with just a bunch of these Force-devouring creatures that suck the Force out of the Jedi and kill them that way. And the Jedi don't know how to deal with these creatures, so they all get recalled back to the Jedi Temple, which is, I think, another thing that happened in Order 66 is like their emergency beacon. Like everybody goes back to the temple. So I think we're already starting to see that in the High Republic with the books. Is like the Jedi are like getting more closed-minded. They're being kind of herded together. And by the time of this show, 100 years later, I think they're going to really at that point be like, okay, we're done exploring. We're kind of happy with where things are now. We don't have to go to the Outer Rim as much. We're going to let the Hutts just take over the Outer Rim. We're going to just, we're comfortable where we are now. And then we're going to see, hopefully, because she mentions in this article about why did the Jedi not sense the dark side? Like, what happened to them? How could they not even see that right under their noses, the Sith Lord was there the entire time? So hopefully we actually get an answer. Maybe there's like a physical thing or a spiritual thing through the Force that some of these Sith Lords were doing.
Well, it's funny. when I was reading that, my first thought was like in old Legends material. I don't remember what book it was. It might have been the one book that takes place between Attack of the Clones and Episode 3, or it like leads up into Episode 3.
Cloak of Deception.
Anyways, yeah, I think
Labyrinth of Evil.
Yeah, it might. Oh yeah, it might have been in Labyrinth of Evil. But it's like implied Palpatine's holding a physical item on his self as to why he was able to like keep basically in the shadows. Like it was implied. I think it was in Labyrinth of Evil. Whichever book it was, the rebel or the Republic officers like investigating and gets killed by Palpatine at the very end.
Oh my gosh!
Like whatever book that was, it was either Labyrinth of Evil or the other one. But anyways, like in that book, like it's heavily implied like Palpatine, because from his point of view, he was like talking to Masamita or whatever, and then some of his like tenets, and basically saying like, yeah, the Jedi didn't even know I was like right in front of them, like so, and it was like getting implied that he had a physical item on him. So maybe maybe that's another instance if they pull from Legends, like they actually address that.
Yeah, I mean, Milton, what would you like to see from the Acolyte as far as a series that would kind of separate itself from The Mandalorian, from Obi-Wan Kenobi, from Andor? I mean, we see it's going to be a mystery thriller. In my eyes, I'm hoping this for. We always, us hardcore fans at the age we are and maybe older are looking for that really like dark, gritty, lots of carnage. And I could think of no better like entry in any of the lineup that we have that we're talking about tonight than we're going to have a Sith show. I would assume there's going to be a lot of assassinating going on.
I was about to say.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe this show can be based off the rule of two. What I mean is maybe some type of dark side user thinks that, listen, the rule of two is not needed. It's kind of out of date. Let's bring back the Sith army. Let's kind of let's go back to the ways of, I think Darth Bane wiped out the Sith from right. He wiped them all out with the rule of two. Yep. So maybe this Acolyte person thinking, listen, Darth Bane was wrong. We need to go back to the way Darth Malgus was wrecking shop. That'd be dope if they name dropped him. That'd be fire if they did, Darth Malgus. But let's say this person's like, we want to go back the way of Darth Malgus, blah blah blah, and they're trying to build up the Sith. And then obviously this picture Acolyte is trying to get followers and people to rebuild the Sith, and that's when I'm thinking maybe Plagueis might pop up later in the show and say, no, we need to keep it low. Like that's why we've been surviving so long. Rule of two's better. Join me, but then let's say the Acolyte and Plagueis start having like this rivalry to figure out who's going to be the ultimate Sith, that type of thing. I want it to be some type of like, let's try to build up the old ways of the Sith, but also try to keep the current ways of the rule of two.
Oh yeah, that would be great. I think on top of that, layered in with the Acolyte, and let's say Darth Plagueis is in it as well. Maybe from the beginning, we get since it's mystery, maybe they go like, you start off, I don't know, with like the HoloNet, for example. I think it's called the HoloNet, right? The news net there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start out with like, what if you get like a HoloNet report of like, the Jedi are finding like some of their random Jedi that are like on missions like dead, like, and they can't discover. It's like a murder mystery type thing.
Yeah.
So like maybe that like will be something that plays into it, and then that would be cool, because then that would like maybe it would spook like the galactic citizens, like holy smokes, what's taking out the Jedi? Like they're pretty much like gods. Like, so I think they're gonna go in that type of a direction, because what other to me, what other mystery direction could you go into other than, since it's a dark side show, like it has to be taking out Jedi, you'd assume anyways.
Yeah, because as Mace says, or whoever, we haven't seen the Sith in a millennium. So you literally can't, whoever sees them has to get killed immediately, You can't get away. So.
I agree.
Now, this is a very interesting one. So we've been following these rumors and news reports about this upcoming show called Grammar Rodeo that probably, I would assume, we'll know more information about by this time next week because of Star Wars Celebration and the panel that they're going to have there. But we have this update on this thing called Grammar Rodeo. And, well, Vanity Fair is reporting that it's not a High Republic show that we were thinking that it could be, but it's actually a post-Return of the Jedi reconstruction that follows the fall of the Empire, the same as The Mandalorian, but its plot remains a secret. It's created and executive produced by director John Watts and writer Chris Ford, who made Spider-Man Homecoming for Marvel. A casting notice has called for 4 children around 11 to 12 years old. Inside Lucasfilm, the show is being described as a galactic version of classic Amblin coming-of-age adventure films of the 80s. So automatically I'm thinking of like E.T., because that comes to mind. But I know we were thinking about this was like other reports were calling this like kind of like the Stranger Things of Star Wars. But this gets very interesting because we also knew that Jon Favreau also was having something to do with this. And at the time, we thought it was High Republic. Now it makes even more sense that he would be involved because if it's around the same time frame as Mandalorian, we know that Filoni and Favreau basically have the keys to the kingdom there. Anything that comes out in that era, they have to okay. And in fact, they had a novel that was supposed to come out, a comic that was supposed to come out, and I'm pretty sure those two guys were like, nope, you can't make it because we want to have all the storytelling rights first, and then maybe after we get done in 10 years or whatever it's going to take, then you guys can make all your stories filling in gaps. So this is interesting. I put this out to Ben, and I don't know if you've seen this message, Milton, but I was like, I kind of have a feeling, and this is really out there, but maybe not so much. This might be like a Luke Skywalker Young Jedi Academy. And I think that Book of Boba Fett episode 6 was like the backdoor pilot. We know that they can do a Luke for an entire hour. Maybe just throw some kids in there. We pick up at the same Jedi temple and we're seeing how that all goes. Maybe we get like a young Ben at some point that joins that place. I don't know, but like I'm probably, speculating beyond belief right now, but I mean, that seems like too good of a thing to pass up because here's my other point. You have John Watts, which first off, the guy got done doing the Spider-Man trilogy. Excellent. And he literally said, oh, I'm done. I'm taking a break. It's like, are you really? Because now you're involved with Star Wars, and who better to direct kids because he's already done that with the high school antics of the kids. What kind of high school do you have in Star Wars? You have a Jedi Academy. I could see kids running around and learning how to use the Force by Luke Skywalker. I mean, come on, is that a great idea, guys?
Well, I know you're about to talk, Milton. Just to throw this out there to add in while you're thinking. So also remember, guys, it was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. It got reported by several, credible people that Lucasfilm filed. It was like you literally just sparked my memory on that, Chris. They filed it was like a copyright or whatever for the term Skywalker Academy. Like that was literally, that was a copyright they filed. What? It was like a year and a half. Yeah, it was like a year and a half ago, but just to throw that out there. But continue, Milton.
I don't know how I feel about this. Not saying I wouldn't be interested. I think it depends on how they do this show. If it's true, let's say your idea is true and it's confirmed that it's a couple seasons of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy. One thing, I don't want it to be a drama-filled CW show in the sense of like high school stuff. I don't need that. We already got that in CW. We got that in Spider-Man. I want this to be more like, have you guys ever seen the Sabrina show on Netflix?
Yeah, yep. I've seen some of it. Yeah, that's like a really grisly show.
Yeah. I want to get something like that mixed with Stranger Things. Just because you're going to have some of the I guess the teenage stuff, and I don't want these kids to be casted like little 4-year-olds. Like I need them to be like 12, 11, 13.
Well, that's
like,
what
I
it
need
says.
I need them to actually do something. Like I feel like Star Wars doesn't have a good luck with kids when it comes to like working with them and expanding those characters. I mean, no disrespect to Jake Lloyd, but people didn't like him as Anakin Skywalker. I like that particular character, obviously. Didn't mind Jake. We were about the same age when that movie came out. So Star Wars doesn't have a good track record with working with kids. People make fun of the broom kid in Last Jedi. He said two words. You know what I'm saying? Or people didn't like the casino planet of the capitalism and slavery with kids. They were like, this is stupid. So it's like, I just hope if they do it with kids, make it worth our while, and you have to sprinkle the Luke dust in that show because I'm not watching it if I don't see Luke.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like, I think with this show, I really feel like it's going to be a Luke and younglings or first students show. Like, I think, and that's not even me. Like, it's not me like knowing any inside information or anything. Like I feel like it just has to be. Like, what else would you put in that timeline? Like with kids like that. Like it's after episode 6 with kids. And then my thing about it is I pointed out in our group chat, I'm not sure if you caught it earlier in the week, Milton, but my thing with it is, okay, you put out a casting call for kids, but you don't have to put out a casting call for a CGI Luke. So it just makes me think, are they going to go that route? Like, I really, really think that's where they're going to go. Like, I just don't see any other show you could put in there. Like, like I jokingly said, like, what is it going to be, an Ewok show, a sequel to the Ewoks movies or something? Like, what else could it be? Like, it has to be Skywalker Academy. Like, it has to be something.
And I think if you're going to use kids, these kids cannot act like normal kids in the sense of like, yeah, I know kids are kids, but I'm looking at an example of DC, for example. DC does a really good job with their animated films.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Wayne in those animated films is so dope. And he's like, what, 12 or 13? Have you seen those animated films of him? Okay, so like Bruce Wayne has a son, spoiler, to Talia al Ghul.
Huh.
Okay, so in the comics, she actually like rapes him, gets pregnant, and like has a kid by Batman. So in the animated,
what?
Yeah, dude, it's legit. Like, it's a storyline where like Talia al Ghul gets Batman like drunk or like knocks him out. She assaults him, gets pregnant, and then has a baby. So in the animated movies that they released, Damian Wayne, is revealed as Bruce Wayne's son, and Damian makes a joke to his dad because his dad was going on a date, and he's like, father, he's like, make sure you watch your drink and you bring protection with you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So. But no, Damian Wayne as this character, as a 12-year-old kid who plays Robin, he's very much an adult in a sense, but he's a kid too.
Yeah.
But he's a badass. So I would love to see kids like that, in a sense of like they're ahead of their time, but they're still kids, but they can kick a lot of ass. Kind of like Hit Girl from what's that movie, Kick-Ass?
I've not watched it in a long time. I have no idea about it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to look up Amblin 80s films to try to get a good idea of like what they're going for. I don't know if you're ahead of me on that one already, Ben, but I mean, go ahead.
I mean, the main one that comes to mind is E.T. Like, E.T. is the quintessential Amblin 80s film. Oh yeah, and I say that Skywalker trademark thing, Chris. But anyways, E.T. is like the trademark of like that, of like kids films. Like, honestly, if you think about it, what movie before E.T. do you remember like with kids? And you don't, in my opinion. Like, it always goes back to E.T. Like, E.T. set the standard, I feel like, for kids
oh man.
film. So
oh man.
That's what makes me think it'll be something in that regard, where Luke's going to potentially be like the parent of like these kids, like in a E.T., like the main characters, parents were hanging around. So maybe it'll be something along those lines.
Check this out. All right, so I found a good list here. We have Gremlins, which I just watched. Love that movie. We got The Goonies. I mean, look at that, right? Those kids were all like probably maybe a little bit older than 12, maybe not. But like, I could see a fun like romp around like look at the Clone Wars, for instance, right? They had that one youngling arc. I could see like a live action version of that, like these really young kids just got their lightsabers from Ilum. they're traveling around and they get lost from Luke or something. Because I think we did hear reports about like they were supposed to be on an adventure or something. So maybe to save money, like there's one episode with Luke and it's like the first episode, and then like Luke takes them somewhere and they get lost. I don't know how, but they'd probably try to pull something like that to save a little bit of cash, and then they see him again at the end of the season or something like that.
Yeah, I could see it maybe doing something like that, or maybe like Luke, for example, is maybe early on in the season giving them some type of lesson about, don't underestimate this, don't do that, whatever. Then the kids go on their mission, little adventure, and then maybe they get into danger. Luke saves them maybe halfway through the season. Then the kids, then of course after the kids learn their lesson, they'll go on their next mission and then complete it. And then we meet back up with Luke maybe at the end of the series. Like maybe it'll be something like that.
Yeah. So you also have Hook. You have the Back to the Future series. I wouldn't really consider Jurassic Park. Although there are two kids. There are two kids, and they do learn a lesson at the end of it, which I could just suggest would be maybe just survival at that point. But there are little kids in that one. See, I'm looking through this list, and some of these are just complete hits that are just legendary. And if they could try to get some of that feeling out of these movies to put it in this show, that'd be huge. Remember, Kathleen Kennedy was like a producer on basically all those movies I mentioned. So,
yeah.
I mean, she's got the experience to kind of steer them, hopefully, in the right direction and whatnot. Yeah. So, I'm very much looking forward to this. Between this being announced at Celebration and knowing what the hell Tales of the Jedi, the animated Filoni series, is going to be, man, oh man, there's going to be some pretty big surprises, I feel like, coming out of this. But the TV wasn't the only thing that was stressed in this article. There were some pretty big bombs dropped when it came to the movies. So, Ben, do you want to start off with this one? I know there's a lot mentioned with the Rian Johnson trilogy, which I know you and Milton are very inclined to talk about.
Yeah, we can start off with that. Well, as we mentioned earlier, just to get things started, with Kathleen saying it's on the back burner, that basically is, it's not really news for us. Like we've all expected to get that news eventually. It's just a matter of when, and we finally got it now. And now's the perfect time to like push his trilogy potentially just right off the cliff, because you have all these other shows and movies and things getting developed to basically distract us from the fact they're like ditching an entire trilogy of movies. So you have that. You have, to me, also, like I mentioned earlier, Rian Johnson, like Knives Out was a really good movie. Looper's a good movie. Like he has good movies in his filmography. Like he's a really good director. But his take on The Last Jedi was not great at all. But my thing with him is I feel like he could potentially have made a good Star Wars movie if it was, say his trilogy was 1,000 years in the future, like totally new, something unique, because that's where he's thrived for the most part, is like, unique, more original type ideas versus like, say a big franchise. So it's definitely interesting the way that they actually put this in there and finally let it be known, like, hey, Ryan's movie's on the back burner. Also, I think that does fall into the category of, just say like the legal side of things. Like he has a $400 million deal with Netflix. Do you really think Netflix is saying, hey, yeah, go ahead and go make a movie for another company instead of, working with us when we're paying you $400 million, man? So like, I think that's a big part of it too. Like his contract, the reports for his $400 million deal, it wasn't reported the length of it. I would probably say like, probably a 5 to 7 year type contract, if not longer. So I don't think we'll see the trilogy at all. If we do, it'll probably be like 6-7 years down the road, maybe. But as Kathleen said, it's on the back burner. And also, I feel like just like one final point, they're just trying to put as much space between The Last Jedi and Rian Johnson's next project as much as possible. Like, they're putting out all these shows, all these things. potentially multiple seasons of Mando, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all these shows, and it's just going to mainly, I think, try to soften the blow whenever, if they do announce Ryan's coming back to do something. There's that chance. And then the thing is, Kathleen does also state, we're trying to move past the terminology of trilogies. So the thing is, that makes me wonder if that was kind of like a not direct way of saying like Rian Johnson's trilogy was canceled.
Yeah, so when he signs up with the deal with Netflix, that's basically an exclusive deal. Like he can't go anywhere and make something else at that point, right?
Unless Netflix approves. So basically, like the way that works, you had, like you said, we had James Gunn did Suicide Squad, and then he's back with Marvel. Like, you can work with multiple studios, but the way most of the contracts work, from my knowledge, when it comes to like directors and people behind the camera, are like basically Rian Johnson would have to go to whoever his boss would be at Netflix and say, hey, Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm want me to do this trilogy of movies. Can I do it? Yes or no? And if they say no, he's out of luck. Like,
they're not going to say yes to that, because it's not only one movie, but it's like, that's like 10 years of your life right there.
Yeah.
If each movie is 2 years, and then it could be 3 years to produce with the writing of it beforehand, if you're writing it too, that's like, you're doing a good 7 to 10 years right there.
And what, it all comes back to, why would we pay you $400 million to go work for the next 7 years or longer with another company, like, or be distracted? Like, it just doesn't make any business sense in my opinion.
I think they learned their lesson. Lucasfilm, it's like, all right, maybe we should do contracts. Like when they announced he's doing a trilogy before Last Jedi came out, it's like, I would assume like they had some agreement where it's like, you got to do this soon or something. But I guess they're more lenient. I don't know the business side of these things, but it's interesting how he could have announced the project first, and then another company comes in and like takes it away. I don't know how that works, but hey, that's Hollywood. I'll never understand. That's not my industry.
I'll just keep it brief. Like, I don't care about this trilogy. I've said it from day one. The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm just got to keep it real. But like, and I like Rian Johnson. Knives Out was fire. That was a good movie.
I haven't seen it.
I like Knives Out.
Oh, it's great.
It's really good.
It definitely
when it comes to Star Wars, don't touch it, Ryan. Stay away from it. Like, I don't need you.
I think he'll be all right. Like Ben said, if he like goes into a different era and he's able to create everything, I think that'll be fine.
You're probably right. And I think what happened for me, because I remember the trailer coming out for Last Jedi, and I was the way they cut that trailer, and that's not his doing how they cut the trailer.
No.
But I know Rian Johnson's work. I'm thinking, oh my God, like this guy's a really good storyteller. He's going to give us something fire. And I think everyone's expectations were so high, especially of Luke. I think I still can't get over how he disrespected Luke. And it's like, wait a minute, if you take an iconic character and make him trash and he can't fight nobody, and then what are you going to do with actual Jedis or whatever in the future? Like, you're going to make him just like pissy and like not want to do nothing? So I don't trust him as a Star Wars director. I trust him as an original content director. It's two completely different things. So I don't care about this trilogy. Kathleen, keep pushing it off because no one still wants to see that trash.
I think it's going to just keep getting pushed back and pushed back. Now that they mentioned this back burner thing, they're not going to mention this trilogy probably for.
You know what else goes on the back burner? Boiling water.
Yep.
Okay, and usually you don't even need to use it half the time, or like you got to warm up some food when it's on the burner. No one wants to eat nobody wants to eat warmed up food unless it's like something that's on point, something that I love to eat all the time. I don't love to eat The Last Jedi. It's unrewatchable for me. So why would I want to put his shit on the back burner? Sorry, I'm cursing, but like it's just so obnoxious how they announced that movie or that trilogy before The Last Jedi came out. And then I remember them making an announcement like maybe a couple months after The Last Jedi saying, "Oh, that trilogy is going to be, it's going to be on hold until he figures out his other projects." And then I remember people on Twitter asking him, "What's up with your trilogy?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's still a work in progress. I'm still writing it. No, you aren't.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
come on,
see,
man. I want to hear that. You're a liar.
well, see, the thing is with that, I think, yeah, I think they're going to just keep pushing it back, you know, they're just going to, as he wrote in his movie, they're going to let it die. Let the past die, let that trilogy die. I just don't see it happening. Like, I could see it happening, as I mentioned, but I really, like, if I had to put a percentage on it, I think it's like an 80% chance it won't happen. Just because soon as you announce it's officially happening, say it's coming out December 2027, you come out and announce that immediately, leading up all the way to that movie, through that movie's release, doesn't matter what it is, after the movie, all it will be is Last Jedi talk. And Lucasfilm can't go through another PR firestorm like they did with that, and then with him even specifically. Like, you know, I've always been real critical of him, not even for The Last Jedi. I mean, obviously Last Jedi specifically, but off the field, him just smack talking fans. It's like, dude, do not do that. Like, me, if I was like running a company, or like at least the head of the PR team, I'd be like, our employees do not need to be talking back to fans. Like, it just doesn't make any business sense whatsoever. And I just don't like that. Like, that's what makes me think I could see it not happening, just because soon as you announce it, it'll just get the fan base all riled up. And, you know, the internet doesn't forget.
No. Yeah, so Rian Johnson trilogy ETA unknown. Another switch up that has happened with the movies. The other two movies that we know have been in the works. We have Rogue Squadron and we have whatever Taika Waititi's working on. Well, according to this article, it is now switched. Now Rogue Squadron seems to be coming out after Taika Waititi's movie. We knew that there was lots of issues going on with Patty Jenkinson's directed Squadron movie because she was tied up again. Here we go again with these other projects, tied up with Wonder Woman 3, which I don't even think was officially announced before they announced Rogue Squadron, which again, I don't know how like these deals go through when things get put in stone and then they don't get put in stone, and then they have the Cleopatra movie she's working on, but then she claimed that she's not doing the Cleopatra movie, and now she's focusing more on Rogue Squadron. Well, anyway, we have heard nothing about Taika Waititi's movie that he's also writing, but he's co-writing with somebody that wrote, forget the other movie, but he has a co-writer on this Star Wars movie. So yeah, there you go. That Rogue Squadron is getting pushed back. I would like to hear more about Rogue Squadron at Celebration, but I think it's again one of those situations where if they don't mention it at Celebration, I would say it's really, really far off from coming out.
Sounds like typical Lucasfilm. Like, I mean, they make plans before they're ready to actually solidify them. It's like, come on, you know. And then these directors are dropping in and out. I see a lot of good that they're doing, but same old story. You know, it's whatever, man. I'm not gonna believe it until they actually make an official announcement, and we have concept art, and we got posters, and we got press going on. And then definitely until I see a tweet saying that production started. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Milton. It's just same story, different day. Like, it really is with Star Wars when it comes to news. Like, I was joking around with my friend last year before we had any Kenobi trailer, anything. I was joking around with him. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if this show gets canceled. But I kept saying to him, I will not believe it until we see a trailer, just because it's like, I don't know what to believe with Star Wars. Like, heck, look at Book of Boba Fett. They took so long to release a trailer. And I kept joking around with my buddy. I was like, man, are we even going to get this show, or is it going to get pushed? Like,
you know, this reminds me of, Ben. Do you remember whenever, I think it was one of the Comic-Cons, DC panel, they announced like this whole slate of movies, Green Lantern Corps, all this stuff, 2023.
DC, yeah, DC Fandom.
No. This is at a Comic-Con. This was whenever Batman v Superman was coming out.
So 2017.
Yeah. So like they announced a slate of movies. They had all those directors pop out on the remember that?
Yep, I remember that now.
So like so Chris at one Comic-Con they announced, this is whenever they announced the Batman by your boy Affleck. And all these directors came out to do like told us on the Flash, blah 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 blah. And then obviously Disney just did this last year at whatever event it was where they announced the Rangers of the Republic,
Oh yeah,
all this other stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, because Kathleen had that. She announced the whole Rogue Squadron thing when what's her name was on skates. Remember she talked about like her dad being a pilot.
Patty Jenkins was on skates.
And it's like
There's
you went through all that announcement.
Yeah.
To then say, oh, is being pushed or she might not work on it. Like what? What was all that for then?
Yeah, I don't.
Like it's weird to me.
Yeah, I personally, I don't. I think this movie is heading right to the back burner. They're going scoot over Rian Johnson trilogy. We're getting on the back burner with you because I don't think it's going to happen personally. Because why? Like, to me, it falls on. We talked about it before, like months and months ago. When Star Wars. I mean, heck, John Watts literally just said he wanted to basically get out of Marvel for a little bit so he could work on Star Wars. Like Patty Jenkins, it's like, if Star Wars is important, like why are you prioritizing other projects? Like, we can't pick and choose what, obviously like studios are throwing her millions of dollars and stuff, but still it's like, this is Star Wars. And it just, it really makes me think this is probably not going to happen. And if it does, if you guys think about it, so we're not getting a movie next December. We're not getting a movie in 2024 in December 24 because that's Avatar month and they're not going to move that. So the next Star Wars movie we'll probably get is December 25.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. Like to me, Star Wars is a movie going experience. Like I love it on our shows every week, etc. Like Kenobi is going to be great, I'm sure. But don't get me wrong. If you give me a button to press to either choose a Kenobi show or a movie, I'd pick a movie 10 out of 10 times.
Unless it's The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but I'm saying if it was really good. If it was really good, I'd pick a movie. I'd pick a Star Wars movie over a show any day of the week.
Yeah,
that's just me.
I tend to agree with that sentiment, Ben. So that was really it. And when I say that was it, exactly, we almost did like 2 hours of the show just on that. But yeah, check out that Vanity Fair article. There's so much to glean from that article. But I'm happy that, we got the reporting from Anthony Bresenkin that broke it all down, that put it all to paper and uploaded it, because that was a lot of the stuff the fans have been kind of like, what's going on with Lucasfilm? Like, it's very quiet, very, very quiet. Now the question I beg to ask is like, well, they put all this out there. What the heck could they be showing us a celebration? Maybe they're holding a couple other cards close to our chest. Maybe Donald Glover will walk out on stage with Billy D. Williams and be like, "We're back, 2024," or something.
I hope so.
That would be
hope,
cool.
And well, see, that's another thing too. Like, just give us something to be surprised about. I said it so many times on this show. Like, I just want Star Wars to surprise us with something. Like, it never feels like we're surprised anymore, because anytime they announce something, like you said, Milton, we can't believe it. We can't believe anything they say on announcements. It's just like, okay, we'll get all hyped about Celebration. Like, say they announce all these new projects, and I'd be willing to bet you half of them don't even make it to.
We just had it recently.
To screen.
Here's the thing, though. I think they've already understood that themselves internally, because from the rumors of this Grammar radio show, I think it's supposed to head into production in a matter of weeks.
June it's supposed to be.
So can you imagine that we don't have even an actual official announcement of this show? They have the potential to bring the cast members on that stage and announce the show then and there. Be like, hey, by the way, we have all these young actors here. We're here to announce Skywalker Academy, set after the events of Return of the Jedi, interweaves into the Mandalorian storyline, and just drops the mic and be like, oh, well, we got to get back to the location and continue our shoot. Like, maybe they really are doing that. If it gets to the point, like Milton says, like, we don't know if a thing is actually done until it's actually being filmed in production.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, hey, who knows? Maybe they come out and what if they show us like a first? Because you can do tests. You can do like when people are getting casted and stuff, they'll run like test footage and stuff. Like, what if they give us like a little 10-second thing of like Luke standing there with the younglings or something? Like, boom, like that'd get people riled up. Like just surprise us with stuff like that is all we want as Star Wars fans. Like, because I feel like with Star Wars fans on the internet, especially, like everyone's always so pessimistic because of like so many of the things Star Wars has pulled over these past like basically 6-7 years. It's just like, give us stuff to have hope in. Like, and I feel like with like say a Luke and his Youngling show, that would be a nice, I think, change of pace for the Star Wars fandom, because then it would maybe check off some of the boxes for like us fans of Luke and be like, okay, now we're actually getting Luke content. You know, now we're getting more like potential like tie-ins to like say canon and the Legends material. Like I feel like there's a lot of potential for that if they go in that direction. Yeah, so I just think it's heading in a good direction, but they still got some work to do.
They still got some work, that is for sure. So, moving on, we have 2 more stories to talk about this week. Real quickly, we have our first official offerings from the now partnered Dark Horse Comics with Lucasfilm. You know, they were partnered for literally years and years, and then Marvel got the license back, and now IDW lost the license. They're still with Marvel, but now they're also with Dark Horse, and we have something called Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, which for those of you that have read the IDW Star Wars Adventures comics, is basically the analogous version of that for Dark Horse. You have an all-age comics that are basically anthologies. So the first one's going to be about Anakin, about Obi-Wan saving Padme, or at least helping Padme fight off some separatists. So you got that story. And you also have a hardcover release, which is going to be called Tales from the Rancor Pit. That one's written by Kevin Scott. He has done the Tales from the Vader's Castle, which one of the Inquisitors that's going to be an Obi-Wan is from. So that's always a fun time. That one usually comes out around October. I think it's interesting that they're not going the single issue route with that one, but rather release it instantly in a hardcover graphic novel. So I definitely like that approach, and it'll be cool to see that Dark Horse, logo emblazoned on the upper left corner of those pages pretty soon. So let's see, Hyperspace Stories starts out in August, and then Tales from the Rancor Pit comes out in October. And finally, this is the big one. We could probably spend a good 30-40 minutes on this one if we had that kind of time, but we have the Shadow of the Sith. They keep putting out these experts, and that's that book that has Lando and Luke on that trail of Ochi Bestoon and trying to find Exegol. That one's taking place 10 years before the events of The Force Awakens, and USA Today put out a excerpt that actually features Rey as a 6-year-old on the run from these hunters, and it's with her parents, and they are confirmed. Their names are confirmed to be Dathan and Miramir. So this is neat because we're getting that kind of fill in the blank content that's been sorely left out of The Rise of Skywalker. Ben, you had watched it recently. It's like, I want to know more about the son of Palpatine, because we weren't even really sure what he was. Was he a clone? Was he a actual, genetically born naturally son? What the heck's going on with that character? Let alone with her mother. So already reading that excerpt, we find out that Miramir, she is somebody that's really good with technology. She's a pilot. And Dathan seems like a very loving father. So right off the bat, just from those couple lines of dialogue, I'm like, all right, I'm in. I'm looking forward to seeing this story. It seems like it's going to have a lot of essential information. Everything from Lando trying to find his daughter that was taken from him by the First Order, to Luke literally like teleporting his body like he did in Last Jedi to Exegol, fighting off like the ring wraiths of Lord of the Rings, essentially. So oh man, every time they put out an excerpt that I've read, and I usually don't read excerpts, but it seems like this story is definitely going to be worth the wait, and it's coming out in July. So I'll throw this one to Milton. What do you think about this? I know you're not the biggest fan of this movie either, but would you like to know more about Rey's parents?
Look, when it comes to the books, I'll read or listen to them. I most likely listen. So if it's on audiobook, like if you started listening or reading to this book, Chris, and said, Milton, it's worth it, take a listen. It's going to fill in a lot of the gaps. Great. I have The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker on audiobook.
Cool.
So people might think that's bizarre of me because how I feel about the movies, but those books, if they were made the way the book's written,
yeah,
I'd probably be okay with those films because it goes
Yeah.
more in depth. Even like The Force Awakens, because like, and I'll get back to this particular book we're talking about, Chris. But The Force Awakens, there's an excerpt in that book where Snoke talks about being present or being around whenever he
Yeah.
witnessed Palpatine and
Uh-huh.
Vader's defeat, and talks about it was Vader's like emotion to his son which caused him his downfall, and like Palpatine's arrogance and blah 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 blah. And it's like, why didn't we get that line in the movie? Because then that definitely would have been a way for us to get off the scent of thinking Palpatine had nothing to do with Snoke. But then we come to find out Snoke was created by Palpatine. It's like, ugh, that's kind of a waste. But back to this book, if it's good, well written, and expands the characters, I'll listen to it all day. I'm definitely objective when it comes to the books because the books always seem to be better. And I like how Star Wars does their audiobooks. It's very much listening. It's like listening to a movie.
Oh yeah, there's so much in there about, like you said, there's little tiny nuances to the characters and everything
Yeah.
else, man. But yeah, what about you, Ben?
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the Snoke thing, Milton. That just shows side little theory of mine. That just shows to me Snoke was going to be probably an original villain, and they
Yeah,
shoehorned in Palpatine because that's implying that he was a totally separate character and not a clone.
exactly.
So just to throw that out there for food for thought. But in terms of this, I think it's really cool. I mean, these are what the books should be made for. Like, it's just hard the way Star Wars has operated lately. It feels like, and you obviously keep up with all the books and stuff a lot more than say even me and Milton do, Chris. Like, it feels like sometimes with some of the stories, like there's like an elephant in the room of like, it feels like they're almost like handcuffed where they can't go all out on the story. You know what I mean? Like they can't go all out and just like go crazy because it's so handcuffed with like the movies and stuff. So it's like it limits where they can tell the stories. Like, can they tell a story around Force Awakens? Can they tell a story around Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker? Or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I would be willing to bet we're never going to get a book post Rise of Skywalker until we get something like on screen
Mhm.
first.
Yeah.
And to me that's just because that's just like how they operate because they don't want to like make a book and then have to like go back and be like, oh crap, actually we want to do this. So like it's cool that they're finally like adding a little more value to the sequel trilogy by giving Rey's parents names. Like that's awesome. Like they're talked about in Rise of Skywalker. They're talked about in well throughout the sequel trilogy really. So it's cool they're getting their names addressed and like the books, as you said, Milton, the books I feel like for the most part for almost any franchise really, a lot of times the book is usually better than the movie because it can just lay out a lot more details and just overall make things better. Like heck, I just mentioned earlier I watched Rise of Skywalker recently, and that whole sequence of like the Palpatine cloning sequence, it was so fast. Like
Yeah.
literally, you have some random guy in the background say he literally says like one line. He's like, "Cloning, dark arts of the Sith," blah
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah, and then they continue, and it's like, whoa whoa whoa! If you would have like even coughed or something, you would have not even heard that line. So like, there's like books like this will add just more cohesiveness. I feel like to the movies and make the movies a little bit better, like say the old books used to for the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, so much could be done with, you know, Sith and Dark Secrets only the Sith knew or whatever. Like
Yep.
that's just like, okay, they don't want to have time to tell that story. It's like, what? That seems like so weird. He just says that line of dialogue. It's like, I get it. Like they don't want to even try to explain that line of exposition, right? A lot of times it's like these live action things. You don't want to like sit there and monologue about something. But hey, just show us a cool flashback. They could have showed us a little like alternative view of like Return of the Jedi. Like you see the Emperor going down the shaft, you see like a little like force like bluish like orb spirit thing like traveling and ending up in like Exegol,
Mm.
and you see like the body like already there or like rows of Palpatine bodies, and it goes like into one of his bodies, and you see it like, and then they could make it like Lord of the Rings or something. Like I'm imagining in my head like Return of the King's opening where it shows like Smeagol who turns into Gollum, but it shows like that transformation. Show that. Be like,
Yeah.
throughout the last 30 years, Palpatine's clone body cannot actually handle his power, and he had to go out and send out people to get his son, to get the genetic material, to get him to become like the ultimate Sith, the spirits of the Sith. Or they could have done it more elegantly, but they just didn't want to. So there you have it. I'll be reading that thing day one. That comes out at the end of June, so we don't have much longer to wait for that one. But man, oh man, that's going to wrap it up for us here. I mean, we got a big event coming up. If you guys are listening to this on podcast form, it will be the week of Celebration. If you're watching us, just a couple short days, Thursday through Sunday at Anaheim's Convention Center. A whole bunch of fans and celebrities and everything else are going to descend on that place for the ultimate Star Wars party, but a lot of really good information is going to be coming out of that. Thursday, I think we're going to get a lot of bombs dropped. That's going to be the Lucasfilm Showcase live action panels. That'll be a lot of information coming out of that. Friday, there's going to be some more book panels, but you're going to want to stay tuned on Saturday. That's going to be when the Mandalorian panel is, so we'll probably get more information about that. We're also going to get the Tales of the Jedi panel that day as well. And then Sunday, we're going to get a lot of information about the Bad Batch, and, you know, maybe they'll have something about the closing ceremonies. Sometimes they reveal something. I know one year they had, like, casting announcements of Eldon Ehrenreich, although that was heavily rumored, so it wasn't a huge surprise. But basically every day from Thursday to Saturday, or Thursday to Sunday, you guys can make sure to keep your eyes peeled on StarWars.com. They'll be live streaming the whole thing, or at least most of it. Sometimes they tend to block out certain things that they don't want people to see at home because they don't want to like have the footage like replicated online and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I know Ben, you'll be watching. I'm sure Milton, you'll probably be tuning in when you can to check it out. So just a little update for everybody out there because you'll be able to watch it from home.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Star Wars Celebration. Again, I normally tend to watch the live streams. I probably won't watch most of Thursday because I'll be working during the day, but I'll definitely watch Friday and Saturday and Sunday because I'm off on Friday, which is nice. So it's going to be cool to see the panels. And I usually like when they do the interviews and when they make the announcements. I'm just hoping that, it's been 2 years, 3 years?
3 years,
Since the last celebration? Hopefully they come out with something banging. You know, just give us something because we've been craving a celebration for a while now, so...
Yeah, we've been saying it's been very much a lacking year as far as news, and I think that's just because they're like, you know what, we're going to just let it all out at Celebration. We have like imagine like the hose is like kinked, and you have all this pressure building up, and they're going to undo the kink, and it's just going to be a whole bunch of, water flowing through this hose of Star Wars information, and it's going to be glorious. At least that's what I would hope it is. Probably a terrible analogy, but I tried.
Yeah, we should be getting plenty of news. We'll obviously get. I think since they released this article, well, I mean it's not on StarWars.com, but the funny thing is with this article, if you actually for anybody listening too, if you read the article and like look at some of the pictures. This article was probably written about a month or maybe even 6 weeks ago. Like, if you look at some of the pictures of Ewan compared from then to now, like, his beard's like pretty much shaved. Like, it's definitely was an older article. So it just makes you wonder, or, basically Star Wars probably had to approve basically everything in this article. It's their write-up. So it just makes you think we'll for sure get probably everything that were in the contents of this article and maybe more, on top of that. So I'm interested to see. I'm gonna after we're done with this stream, we definitely need to look at the schedule again for Celebration to kind of slot in like where would they maybe announce Grammar Rodeo at? Like, that's the interesting thing.
That'll be the showcase panel. That's a whole hour and a half.
All right. Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know the length of it. Okay, yeah. So then they'll for sure do it then, and that'll be a great way to kick off Celebration. Announce that, be like, hey guys, we're filming, blah blah blah. Boom, this is what it's about. And there we go. Like I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really do. I'm super excited for it. Like we said, it's been a few years, and I think the fans are ready for it. Honestly, like fans want Star Wars stuff. Like Star Wars is popular. Like it is the thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So for those of you out there, I know some of our listeners, I know some of our viewers are going to be out there. You guys know who you are. For those of you that are going to be there, hey, I'll be walking around to see me, say hi. I got some cool merch I can send your way. I'll have some pins. I'll have some stickers to give away. Every day I'm going to be busy, and that includes even after the convention. Thursday, there's a really fun party being held by my buddies. Funnily enough, at an IHOP, they have an inside joke. They're having a party at IHOP on that Thursday, and then that same Thursday, the 501st Legion is holding their or not annual, but every celebration they have a 501st bash, which a lot of the proceeds go towards children's foundations and things of the like for charity. So that's always fun. They have different live acts going on, and there's still tickets on sale for that, I believe. A lot of fun. The next day, Friday, I'll be at Star Wars Night, going to Disneyland for the first time, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And then I'll be going on Saturday, I'll be going to this event called Mosh Isley, which is basically like an emo night Star Wars style. I got an email, which was very entertaining, where they said, make sure you bring a lightsaber because we're going to have the Wall of Death with lightsabers, Sith versus Jedi. So I can't freaking wait for that. I'm going to try to get as much footage as I can throughout the weekend because there's going to be a lot going on. So I can't commit, I can't confirm what my channel is going to have covering this, but I'm going to try to do as much as I can. But also I know that I don't want to be like caught up in content creation 100% of the time. So I have my coverage from Chicago. I have like an entire vlog and a whole bunch of stuff. So, go ahead and check that out. That might pump you up for things coming up later in the week because it's going to be a lot to look forward to. But what are you guys going to be up to this week?
Me personally, not really nothing exciting this week. Just hanging out with some friends and family, honestly, this week. Just been a long week as normal, but just relaxing, decompressing. Have a big week coming up, but like I said, I'm just gonna be hanging out, enjoying my time with friends and family.
There you go. Where can they find you? Where can the good people of the internet find you, Milton?
They can find me on Twitter at MiltonWeber7 or follow me on Instagram at Milton7Weber.
There you go. And Ben,
yeah,
where can the people find you, and what are you going to be talking about? Are you going to be talking about more Halo?
Oh yeah, probably. As I always joke around, I have to give a Halo update every week. Halo, watched the season finale last night. It was incredible. Anybody that even is an inkling of a Halo fan, make sure you go and watch it on Paramount Plus. Like, give it a chance. Don't pay attention to the video games. Like, treat this as a totally new story, and I think you'll have a good time with it. Like, to me, it was a 9 out of 10 type season. I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next season of it. I think it's a lot of fun. And hey, Pablo Schreiber liked my tweet, so that was a pretty cool part of my week too.
Dude, I was just gonna say, you have a resemblance to Pablo Schreiber, aka you almost look like the Master Chief a little bit.
Hey, there we go.
I had to put that out there. It's like, hey, if you ever have to stand in as a body double, they got you over there in Ohio they could grab.
Hey, I'm almost his height, so
I know that's the crazy. I was thinking about that. He's like 6'3" or 4" or something like that as well.
Yeah, I saw you saying he was like 6'3", 6'4", so, and I'm 6'3" right on the dot, so right there we go. I'll gladly be his body double. But yeah, I'll be talking Halo on Twitter, and then you can find me on Instagram. Well, Instagram and Twitter both at Real Ben Maynard, and on Instagram I'm just posting my workouts pretty much every day and just documenting me losing weight. I'm down about 1.5 pounds this week, so things are going well, and it's just the process, the multi-month process it's going to take till October, November potentially to get like totally shredded and lean again, and I'm just documenting that journey. So anybody who wants to join in and check it out, feel free to find me on Instagram at RealBenMaynard.
There you go. And as far as me on this YouTube channel, I put out my official review for Brotherhood. Every time I talk about this book, I want to say Kenobi, which I also read that book and love that old Legends book. But yes, my review for Brotherhood is up on the channel right now, as well as those comics that I talked about off the top. And this is going to do it for us for a while, because unfortunately I don't have the means to do any kind of podcasting live from the place. So you can tune in literally 2 weeks from today, which will be June 3rd. We will be back. And guys, I don't even know how we're going to do that show, because it's not just one episode of Obi-Wan. It's 3 episodes of Obi-Wan on top of all this news. Like, what is happening? We're going to have to like come back to like some of those episodes or something and talk about them in greater detail at one point, because I have a hard enough time talking about a single episode, and then everything else is going to be like, I don't know what's going on. So tune in 2 weeks from today. We'll figure it out somehow. But otherwise, that's going to do it for us here for Outer Rim Transmission. This was episode 59 for Milton, for Ben, for Chris, a.k.a. Starrapter. Thank you for watching. May the Force be with you, and transmission.